afternoon, good evening, or whatever time you're watching and or listening to this podcast. My name is Edson Ochoa. Welcome to another episode of the Down in the Valley podcast, where, as you probably have seen, if you guys have followed us for the last 6 seasons, we talk about RGV FC, we talk about the toros, we talk about the games, we analyze. Sometimes we give, our opinions, go through rants, whatever, and just wanted to say thank you all for all of your support. Honestly, 6 seasons is a long time, I think, for a lot of podcasts to be on the air for so long. And it's pretty much thanks to you guys, all of your support that are constantly tuning in, that are constantly, telling other people about us. Our network, our community is starting to grow, specifically this season. So I just wanted to give a huge welcome and to the new people, and of course a huge thank you for everyone. Like I said, my name is Edson Ochoa. We've got a lot to talk about. We've got some good news. It's always a good show when we have good news to talk about. As y'all probably know, last Saturday the Toros had a game. It was on the road. A lot of us, more specifically I, wasn't really optimistic about it, considering that it was a San Diego Loyal. But we got a good result, and we're going to be talking about it. But before we start talking about that game, I want to give a huge welcome, and I see a smirk in Jacob's face. If you guys could see him right now, but you'll see him in a little bit. Huge warm welcome to my good friend and co-host of the show, Jacob Young. Jacob, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. I'm looking forward to talking soccer. Looking forward to going on a specific rant about somebody, but that will be a little bit in the future. Y'all might be able to guess who he is. If y'all are thinking Eric Pimentel, don't worry, I'll get to him, but that's not who I'm talking about. Somebody else. I think they're sitting virtually across from me, so that should be fun. But yeah, no, looking forward to the show. It should be a great one. And yeah, I did tell you so. I did.
See, ever since the game against New Mexico, despite the fact that we gave up 2 games, Jacob has constantly been telling us on the group chat for Down in the Valley that we have with us and Ray Silva, South Texas Border Sports. Like, he's always gloating about that. Oh, I was right to be optimistic. Where are all the haters now? Kind of thing. And it's only 2 games. And he's already acting like he was right all along. And I'm hoping that he is, but I am going to be a little bit cautious still. But as I mentioned last week, my idea was I want to see some consistent improvements, and we're starting to see that consistent improvement in these last 2 matches.
Yep, it's been consistent for sure. Been a consistent uphill climb. I will be optimistically cautious this weekend, to be exact, because it is Tampa Bay that we're playing. And as we all know, the Rowdies aren't necessarily an easy team most of the time. If I'm not wrong, they go to the championship like almost every other year. So they know what they're doing up in Florida. That water apparently is really strong because they're apparently good.
Well, that's what happens when you had Tom Brady in the city for the last couple of seasons. But that's neither here nor there. I want to give a huge shout out to Costless Titan, who's in the chat right now. Puts in the bull emoji. Thank you for tuning in, Costless. But let's talk already about the game. As I mentioned last week, there were a couple of things that I was very cautious about. Obviously, number one, we were talking about how San Diego Loyal was second in the Western Conference. They had come off a victory. The Toros looked great defensively for the most part against New Mexico. Kind of fell into the shambles thanks to some decisions by Wilmer Cabrera in stoppage time that led for them to lose 2 points at home. Offensively, yes, they scored 2 goals, but it was kind of like, well, this was New Mexico United, right? It was a team that was doing terrible at that specific moment and before, so. And now you have to play on the road against a very tough opponent with some of the best players in the USL Western Conference, a couple of former Toros players as well, which we will talk about some of them once we start analyzing the game. But honestly, like for me, and I think I mentioned it, that for me, a draw at Torero Stadium was gonna suffice for me if the defense managed to kind of tweak those mistakes that they made in the game against New Mexico United, try to avoid any unnecessary adjustments defensively. And I felt that we could have had a fighting chance to at least get a draw. Yep. Jacob, I don't know if you want to talk, kind of recap exactly what were your thoughts going into the game was, or if you were a lot more optimistic than I was.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was optimistic for sure, but at that same point, I was like, yeah, a draw would be fine. It's on the road in the end, and it would just, again, show this improvement that RGV FC was going on. And definitely more optimistic. And of course, an hour before the game starts, we see this lineup, and I honestly wasn't too upset with it, with who started, who didn't. Francois deserved to get the start. Cabrera Jr. deserved to get the start after last week. He had Ricky Ruiz, Robert Coronado. I mean, it was one of the dream lineups. When I saw that lineup out, I said, this is going to be a good team. This is going to be a team that can really shock San Diego Loyal. And I even said it before. I said it last week on the podcast, and I stuck to it through that weekend and before the game. I said, if this team, if San Diego Loyal haven't learned their lesson from a year ago, then they're going to be in deep, deep trouble when RGVFC come out swinging, just like they had in the past couple of weeks, but really the week before with that 2-2 draw against New Mexico.
Cute shout out to Abraham Moreno. He says, "What's up, guys?" And of course to my dad, he says, "Greetings from Houston, Texas." Yeah, he's working in Houston right now at one of the yards for the company that he works for. So huge shout out there. So been a lot of rain in Houston, Texas. But typical of H-Town, lived there for almost 4 years. He says, "How the hell did you live in that climate?" I was like, you just have to adapt. And honestly, I never went out. So it was like, even if it rained, I was safe in my apartment, So what I was going to say is, you talked about the lineup, Jacob. And really there wasn't any, like you mentioned, there wasn't a huge difference from last week to this week. You still had Tyler Derrick on goal. You still had a back line of 4 of Ricketts, Acque, Benitez, and Ritondale, who I've seen a lot of comments saying that Tomás Ritondale has really caught the eyes of a lot of fans of how well he's taken up the position when he plays, not only defensively, but more importantly, I think offensively. I think he brings something similar to the table like Ricketts does on the other side. So we start so that way the attack isn't lopsided towards one side, right? So I've seen a lot of comments on those on social media. And then in the midfield, this is where the biggest change was, and I think it caught a lot of people by surprise, because I had a lot of people reach out to me. It's like, hey, do you know why? Do you know why Gringo Torres isn't starting, or why he's not on the bench? Honestly, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know exactly if it's an injury or if it was, I don't know. I'm not going to speculate about it. But in the midfield, you had Robert Coronado, you had Juan David Cabezas, and you had Taylor Davila. Now, this is why this is one of the reasons why I think this is very important. And it showed how good, how better offensively this lineup looks with similar players. Right. Last week you had Robert Coronado, but playing more of a winger role. Right. What is one of the things that I said? I said I have not seen a lot of Robert Coronado playing out on the wing. Like specifically the wing. Yes, we've seen him as an outside back, as a left back. And he's the player that goes up to help on the attack and then comes back down. But as specifically as a winger, I rarely saw him. I saw him more as a midfielder. During college, he played as a center midfielder. Where do you see him in this game? Central midfielder alongside, Juan David Cabezas. Except that, like we've mentioned before, just like he took up the role of Gringo Torres. And I think we saw the best, at least in my eyes, we saw the best of Robert Coronado playing a Gringo Torres role, just a little bit ahead of Juan David Cabezas and behind Taylor Davila. And I will go more in depth about once we start analyzing some of the key plays in the match. But I mean, Jacob, am I crazy, or do you think there is some sort of truth behind what I'm talking about, Robert?
Yeah, a little bit for sure. Yeah, Coronado can adapt really well. We talked about it a little bit last week too. You're saying, I mean, his role of also being central mid really helps him out. He can play a little bit on that left wing and things like that. But really, really, for some strange reason, this game, particularly when he was in that role, he just seemed so comfortable. And that's crazy. I know we're going to talk more about this, but it's true. Him being in that role, something really has been able to click with him in that position, which means, well, Wilmer Cabrera, you found where Robert Coronado can really shine and help this team out.
Yeah, and like I said, that is a similar position that he got used to playing in college. We saw him playing that position last season. The minutes that he would get with the Toros last season, he scored his goals. I think he scored 4 last season, if I'm not mistaken. The goals, the majority of them were scored with him playing in that central position, in that kind of like the box to box midfielder, but not really, because I don't think I see for the most part, I didn't really see a lot of Robert Coronado. I mean, that's just my interpretation of what I saw. Obviously, the broadcast camera angles don't really help. I just discovered, Jacob, kind of going on a little tangent, I just discovered that Golazo Sports Network has what they call the tactical cam. That's available on Paramount Plus. I saw it for the Champions League game again,
and on Pluto TV, which is free.
I just thought it was like really interesting and actually really, really cool. I wish more streaming networks would actually implement that kind of thing for those of us, who want to get some footage to review in the more tactical aspect or anything like that. But anyway, going back to what I was saying, we saw the Robert Coronado being the most comfortable about there. When he's through the middle, he has a lot more opportunities. He can go out wide, he can go in through the middle. Whereas when you're at a winger, you're kind of limited to trying to play the one-on-one against the defender and try to get past them. And that's not really Robert Coronado's style. Obviously, yes, for Wilmer Jr., who's a little bit more of, the dribbler of the team, but not necessarily for Robert Coronado, right? So my dad says Robert had a hell of a game here at HB Park, recovering balls and distributing the play to the attacking midfielders, a sacrifice player. So what I'm getting at, just to summarize, this lineup really adjusted well for Robert Coronado's play style, and it really showed. Now, we already talked about the lineup for the Toros, kind of like a 4-3-3. Up on top, Wilmer Jr., Cristiano Francois in the middle, and Ricky Reese back on the right, just like he was against New Mexico United. Now, I usually don't talk about the opposing team's formation and lineups, but I feel like me explaining the formation. I think it's going to help all of y'all that are watching right now the show or listening to the archive understand why RGV was so dangerous against San Diego Loyal. Okay, so San Diego Loyal played, according to the USL Championship and according to my eyes too, they played a 3-5-2, in which you have 3 center backs with your 2 outside backs. Not really outside backs, they're actually midfielders. So they're, in theory, with a 3-5-2, those external midfielders have to do the up and down. So when they're defensive, they become kind of like wing backs. When they're in the offense, well, they become your wingers or your attacking midfielders. However, the issue is that if you have players that are playing those positions that don't have defensive sacrifice, or they don't have the stamina to handle 90 minutes of back and forth, you're going to leave yourself exposed, especially when you've got a team like RGV that loves to play with wingers up there, right? In the back, San Diego Loyal had Kyle Adams, former Toro, Stoneman, Camden Riley, former Toro. Now we know 2 out of those 3 players. If you guys have followed the Toros before, we know about Kyle Adams, who has grown tremendously ever since he left the Toros. He left where he went to the Houston Dynamo, wasn't really given an opportunity, so he goes back and goes to San Diego Loyal, right? He has now become, he's gotten to a point that he actually recently been called up to the New Zealand national team, right? So he's grown within the USL Championship. He's shown the talent that he has. Camden Riley, not really a player that I was very fond of in his time with RGV back in the 2021 season.
Yeah. Camden Riley is an interesting person, say the least. Stoneman, Kyle Adams, I mean, a great backline for sure for San Diego Loyal. It was going to be a very difficult backline. Of course, Kyle Adams, we all know his history with RGV FC, gets screwed over more with the Houston Dynamo than the Toros, and that was a couple of other players like Chuy Enriquez, for example, as well. Going off of a little side note of the history of how the Houston Dynamo screwed over the RGV FC Toros. We don't really talk about that much because there's no need, because we end up crushing them off the field with actually winning games and making playoffs, unlike them in the MLS. But I defer. We go back to this. It was a very interesting just lineup in general, especially that back line from them, and being able to, really what caught my eye was seeing Kyle Adams out there and knowing that he's been a key part of that defense in general and why this team is where they're at in the standings.
So to complete the formation for San Diego Loyal, so you have Kyle Adams, like I said, he's going to be the left center back. Grant Stoneman, the central center back, and of course Camden Riley, your right center back. Up on top, you've got Adrian Perez, and Elijah Martin. They're the ones that have to do the kind of the back and forth and to kind of help out on the defense and of course on the attack. But if you see in the USL Championships average positions table, but them two spend most of their time up on top. So the problem was, and this is where Wilmer Cabrera's tactics really got shown. We know for a fact that RGV loves playing the high pressure, right? So let's take a look at the first video, right? Which is going to be the first goal of the game, okay? So this is in the 24th minute. Oops, sorry. So this is in the 24th minute. There's a long ball that is trying to find Wilmer Cabrera Jr. out on the left wing. Okay? So now you've got Wilmer Cabrera Jr. and Camden Riley on a 1v1. Mike says, bro, rewatch the game for me. Player of the match was JDC. Abraham Moreno, Camden Riley, facepalm emoji. Yeah, believe me. I think if you see the episodes from 2021, you would see exactly how pissed off I was at Camden Riley. You remember that El Paso game at Southwest University Park? They scored 3 goals. All 3 goals was in fault by Camden Riley. That was just terrible. That, yeah, that was just. I remember that right after that game, I was like, "Get him off my team!" Like literally. I'm surprised I didn't get in trouble for that. Anyway, but it was just so terrible. But anyway, going back to this game. Okay, so you've got a 1-by-1, a 50-50 tussle between Wilmer Cabrera Jr. and Camden Riley. Camden Riley wins the ball, passes it back to Coque Vegas. Look at the guys. So you've got Francois and Wilmer Jr. almost at the point or of the 18-yard box, right? And then you've got Robert Coronado in that area as well. So that forces Coque Vegas to, instead of trying to control the ball and pass it over to Kyle Adams, who was wide open right outside the half moon, he clears it out. You see, immediately, because Francois was already there. JDC wins the ball. JDC wins the header, puts it back into play. I want to say, I don't know if that was Elijah Martin or Colin Martin or Joe Corona. I can't tell by the numbers. I've already said that before. But there was a miscommunication there between Stoneman and that midfielder. Because had Stoneman said, hey, let it go, I'm right behind you, I don't have anybody near me, that ball could have been grabbed by Stoneman and the play would have ended for RGV. But what happens is that midfielder tries to go for that ball that's up in the air, gets a touch to it, but that puts Stoneman out of the play immediately. Mm-hmm. So now you're back to a 50-50 between Wilmer Jr. and Camden Riley, except that this time Camden Riley loses his balance and Wilmer Jr. is able to get that ball right outside the 18-yard box. Here's the kicker. Wilmer Jr., he maintains possession of the ball. He's right outside the 18-yard box. He's looking at Camden Riley, right? And Camden Riley is doing what it needs to be done. I talk smack about Camden Riley all the time, but here, he does what he needs to do. And that is, you make sure you force Wilmer Jr. towards the end line. How many times have I said that before? I said that in the game against Pittsburgh Riverhounds about Jonathan Ricketts. Okay? Now, what is my problem with this? If I was a San Diego fan, what would be my problem with this? Is that Camden Riley gave Wilmer Jr. too much space. You know that Wilmer Jr. loves to play on a reduced area. He's very nimble. You don't give him that kind of space, right? Because if you give him that space, by the time you react, you're left behind. And that's exactly what happened. You see? When Wilmer Jr. dribbles that ball towards the end line, by the time Wilmer Jr. made 2 steps, Camden Riley was barely reacting. Look at it again.
Yeah.
Okay. Real quick. 1-2, and Camden was barely reacting and trying to catch up to Wilmer Jr. Right? So Wilmer Jr. gets the cross back that gets cleared out by the San Diego defense. But This is another problem from San Diego's defense. And it's not really the defense, but the midfielder, the communication between the midfielders and the defenders. Why am I saying this? Is because everybody went inside the box. Number 17, which is Colin Martin. I believe I also saw there Joe Corona. Everybody's inside the box. Outside, you're left with Moshobane and number 5, which is number 3, which is Elijah Martin. So if you got 2 players outside the box, they're not defenders. What happens? Everybody's inside the box. Nobody's guarding Robert Coronado. Robert Coronado is just wandering outside the box with no pressure whatsoever. So what does he do? The ball gets to him. He doesn't think twice. Hits a first-time shot towards the base of the far post. Puts that ball into the back of the net.
Yeah, it's very impressive. I mean, we go back to it, just like he said, for that first goal. I mean, Wilmer Cabrera Jr. really making that difference for making that assist, playing a beautiful ball into the box, even though it did get kind of deflected outside the box, and for a beautiful strike by Robert Coronado. Everything that could have been done perfectly was done. And I mean, that's the only thing that you can ask for from your team, is to be able to finish like that. Especially with Cabrera being there in time, having that space. Camden Riley doesn't necessarily do the best job, and that's perfect. Mm-hmm. Exploit the weaknesses of the defenders.
Exactly. You got to exploit, and I said it on Twitter. Kind of said it kind of sarcastically in the way of kind of dissing Camden Riley, but I was like, you have to take advantage of Camden Riley Avenue, which is the ease that San Diego Loyal was giving you. You had to exploit it, and that's exactly what they did. Now, about Robert Coronado, that's in that position he's at, that's his role. Pounce outside the box. There has to be always somebody outside the box to try to recover any clearances that are left right outside the 18-yard box, and try to find a shot towards the back of the net. We go back to the whole being aggressive thing that him and Coach mentioned a couple weeks ago. I still stand by what I said. Is it's not aggressiveness that is the problem, because they were aggressive on trying to find shots. It was whenever you take the shots, you put them in on frame. And on here, that's exactly what happened. A lot of the times, how many times did we have any similar opportunities, whether just inside the box or outside the box, and they went like way above the goal, right? This time he was able to put his posture in the correct manner to put that in the back of the net. Yep. He forced Coque Vegas to try to do something. He wasn't able to reach for the ball. The ball goes into the back of the net. So simple as that, right? So right off the bat, early in the game, RGV was leading. At that point, I'm like, what is going on? Like, really? Like, I was surprised, right? Because I was expecting more from San Diego Loyal. I was expecting them to control more of the possession. I was expecting them to have more opportunities on goal that they actually did. But why? Because RGV FC was choking them with the high pressure, which moves me to video number 2. This is an opportunity. This is 27 minutes into the match, just a couple of minutes after the goal. San Diego Loyal has a throw-in in their favor. Look at where everybody is positioned. Oh, by the way, how's it going, Harry? Look where everybody is positioned defensively and offensively, right? You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's say 5 San Diego Loyal players in that area. And RGV has 8. If you want to count, I want to say it's Jonathan Ricketts way over there. You've got 8 defenders. So you, as San Diego, you are outnumbered defensively. You're not being given space at all by RGV's defense. So they execute the throw-in. They play it short. And they have no choice but to try to pass the ball quickly and and they have to pass it back. They can't go forward because there's no space. So they have to go back, right? And as soon as this guy gets the ball, you already have Taylor Davila and Robert, I think, closing in to try to take the ball away. And they have to go back. And then you've got Gabriel Benitez against Elijah Martin. And you have to force it back again. And what ends up happening is you force them enough that Elijah Martin took a terrible touch to that ball, hit that ball a little too hard for Camden Riley to be able to control it correctly. Which means the ball gets loose and Francois recovers. So Francois, with his speed, with his strength, gets past Camden Riley, passes it towards the middle, towards Taylor Davila. Now, remember how I told you how it's a risk when you're only playing with 3 center backs and no outside backs? This is why. You've got everybody in the middle. You've got Kyle, who's supposed to be the left center back. You've got Stoneman. You've got Colin Martin, you've got Camden, you've got, I want to say that looks like Joe Corona as well, and even Elijah Martin. They're all in the middle. Look at Ricky. Ricky is ahead of Adrian Perez. Taylor notices that, but in order to avoid an offside or a potential offside, Ricky has to slow down, which grants, by the time that Taylor Davila gets the ball towards Ricky, that gave enough opportunity for Adrian Perez to get back. In that play, had Taylor Davila, I'm not saying that it was easy. I think the play was fine. In theory, the play was fine. But had Taylor Davila played that ball quicker, that was going to be a shoo-in for Ricky Reese to get an opportunity inside the box to put it into the back of the net. Why? Because your midfielders were too slow to come back and help defend, and your left center back, which is Kyle Adams, was too worried about what Taylor Davila was doing when he already had 2-3 other players guarding him to check on Ricky Reese.
Yep.
In San Diego's favor, Elijah was able to get back and ended the play, and the ball didn't go into the back of the net. But it's plays like this, or it's situations like this that you saw time and time again during this play, and that's what made RGV so dangerous in the first half.
Yeah. It's very true. I mean, 3 minutes after what we're talking about right here, you have another RGV FC opportunity that does lead to a goal. I know you'll get more in depth into it, but the high pressure offense is something that we go back to. We're missing. Was missing from the start of the season, and I'm sure Wilmer has his reasons of why he didn't bring that out until recently. And it's worked because now this team feels so much more unified, and just like we're seeing now, knows exactly what the heck to do, and it's perfect. It's working out beautifully, and it worked out beautifully from that play. I mean, we're talking about an almost Ricky Ruiz chance in the back of the net, probably making it 2-0 earlier than having another opportunity at 30 plus 1 second.
Mm-hmm. Which we'll show you right now. So it's the same thing, guys. Same thing. Carbon copy. Okay, where are we at? Carbon copy. San Diego loses the ball deep in their half when they're trying to clear it. Right off the bat, RGV is able to deflect that clearance back into their side of the field. Right? So there's a little bit of confusion there. RGV recovers it. There's Tomas Ritondale, passes it back to Wilmer Jr., gets past one, tries to get past Camden Riley, another clearance. And look, Elijah Martin As soon as Elijah receives the ball, there's Robert Coronado ready to pounce and forces Elijah Martin to have to pass the ball back to where there's other RGV players that are with the high pressure. Normally, when you've got when your opponent has so many players up in front, you would expect that, oh, if you have somebody up in front, they're not going to have a lot of people. So you try to clear the ball to go over your midfielder to get towards, in this case, Ronaldo Damus or Mushovane. But the problem is those balls weren't even getting there because those clearances were too low enough for your midfielders like Juan David Cabezas or even Gabriel Benitez to be able to intercept that and put it back into your side of the field. And that was San Diego's problem all in the first half, right? So we continue the play, Warmer Jr. with the pressure. They pretty much set themselves up into their own corner. Mushoban is able to kind of clear the lane a little bit, open up the space. And once again, right here. So this time it is number 10, which is Alejandro Guido. He receives the ball. By the time he receives it, he's already got Robert Coronado, Juan David Cabezas, and Wahabakwe right up top of him. Loses the ball quickly. RGV recovers. San Diego was on the process of moving forward, including Adrian Perez. You lose the ball you make him lose the ball quick, you leave him out of the table or out of the play. So now it's just Ricky against either Alejandro Guido trying to recover the ball that he lost, and then later up you've got Kyle Adams. So Ricky does a little sprint, and right off the bat, Alejandro Guido, he's like, forget it. That's your problem, Kyle. I'm going to leave it up to you. And he puts himself out of the play. So now, Kyle is in a similar position that Camden was in the first goal. I'm going to wait to see what Ricky does, and then I'm going to react. The problem is, that Kyle Adams isn't an agile defender compared to Ricky, or compared to the agility of Ricky Reese. He's not agile at all, right? That's number one. Number two, once again, Kyle Adams gave Ricky too much space to work with, too much space to keep a hold of the ball, look up, see where he wants to take the cross, and then execute. Dribbles the ball, maybe gets 2-3 touches on the ball, and Kyle Adams never went up to him. He just waited for Ricky to come to him. Ricky gets the cross in, and of course, nobody was marking Cristiano Francois. Cristiano Francois heads the ball into the back of the net, and now it's 2-0 RGV in the 31st minute. It's like, I said it on Twitter, Kyle Adams was too conservative in that play against Ricky. With a player like Ricky, you cannot give him that kind of space to work with. Look. See, 1, 2, 3 gets the cross. He's able to get deflected, but still, once again, Camden Riley, terrible marking by him.
Yeah, it's crazy. We go back to it, and what's looking like the definition of this match, of why RGV FC were able to do what they were able to do for at least the first 2 goals. Spatial awareness, or whatever. Basically, what I'm saying is San Diego Loyal gave RGV FC way too much space with that, and got complacent in themselves, and all of a sudden you're leaving players off, and this is just San Diego in general. They're leaving players off unmarked, thinking, oh, nothing bad is going to happen. We can take care of this. This is from San Diego's point of view.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they can't handle it because there is a goal scored seconds later, and it's just bad communication from San Diego and great execution from RGV FC to take advantage of it. And it's beautiful. You have no one marking Francois, where there's 2 defenders right there, giving them literally a mountain of space and
Okay,
all of this. It's fantastic from RGVFC to find this and execute it and take advantage of.
okay. So now I ask you a question, and I ask it to the chat as well. Was this a case of San Diego being overconfident on how the performances from RGV's offense were before these last two matches?
The first goal was, by that first goal, they should have changed. They should have changed the way that they were going to play against RGVFC, because they figured out, oh, shoot, this isn't just luck that RGVFC kind of fell, or this is kind of luck that RGVFC started off so badly, because all of a sudden they're a threat. Because after that first goal, I mean, 9 times out of 10 throughout the season, I'm sorry, but it's true, Coronado's not scoring that goal. He's most likely skying it. He worked on his shot, and it was so much better, and that was a beautiful shot, bottom right corner in that first goal. And the keeper even worked towards it. So, again, everything that happened there, Camden Riley should have fixed the way that he was going to defend Cabrera or somebody in that situation, but does not. That's the same thing for Kyle Adams. But Kyle Adams, both of them just figured, okay, that's not going to happen again, I guess. So, yes, a little bit of overconfidence, but at that same time, I would think that they would already change the way that they'd have to play. They'd have a plan B in place instantly if they were to go down by a goal.
So just real quick, looking at the chat, which I'll go ahead and put on screen. So Costless Titan says, just realized Reese had a goal and an assist. He is great on the right wing. We're better not play him as a false 9 ever again. I agree. Gemaka. And then we've got, hold on. I'm trying to interact with this thing, but it won't scroll up. So I guess I'll just read it from my other screen. We've got obviously Harry Austin. He's watching right now. Huge shout out to him over in the land of 210 over in San Antonio. I keep telling you, he's a closet RGV fan, but he doesn't want to admit it.
Yeah, he stays in the closet like Tom Cruise does in South Park for RGVFC. Come out of the closet, Tom Cruise. No.
No. What was the name? What was the name of the L. Ron Hubbard said my acting sucks.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, no, he's on. I mean, Harry's on a high for San Antonio FC having that record-breaking 7-0 game. Has your team ever made another team literally fly out that night and their coach make them practice right as they land on the airport? Has your team ever done that before? Probably not. That's still a crazy story.
So I got something interesting in the chat, and that's why I wanted to go back through it. Costless Titan says Michael had some Galindres news. So yeah, Harry says, I will say that I was happy that RGV pulled the upset. Mike says Galindres is working on his visa right now, should be here in 2 weeks. That is great news. Despite the fact that I'll get your opinions on it right now, but despite the fact that Francois is starting to kind of get the hang of where he wants to be positioned on the field that works the best, I think the idea of having a true number 9, I think will do wonders for RGV. I think if you're starting to see some improvements now, I think once Galindres, gets here and plays as a number 9, that is where it's this team's just going to be better, I think, offensively. The problem is going to be, who are you going to sacrifice? Are you going to sacrifice Ricky to put in Cristiano Francois out on the right wing, or are you going to sacrifice Wilmer Jr. to put him on the left wing? So what are your thoughts? What's your reaction to this bombshell news by Mike?
I think it's good. I've got several questions. I mean, one of the questions is, what is his fitness level going to be like? Well,
if you check out his social media, he's always working out. He's playing 7-on-7 soccer. So like, he's been doing some soccer training. So the guy has been active, right? He's been Obviously, it's not 11 on 11 soccer of professional soccer
And he's
fitness,
not here.
but at least,
yeah.
but at least it's not couch potato like me right here. You know, so I think it's really, really good news if that is the case. And I'm really looking forward, if it does get confirmed, I'm really looking forward to having him in the 956.
Yeah.
Abraham Moreno says, if you see his Instagram, he is in top performance, like I told you.
All right.
Yeah,
no, one more thing. It's going to be interesting because, of course, yeah, who do you sacrifice? And if anybody, and does he become this type of super sub for RGV FC? Or is that going to be now Wilmer Cabrera's full spot too, when, Galindres comes down and is in full form? And what I mean by that is he learns the system of what Wilmer Cabrera wants. That's always a tough thing. We saw how long it took for at least this squad that we have right now to get used to it, besides one guy who still cannot stop fouling in dangerous positions. Yes, that is frustrating. I know we'll get to it later, but man, oh man, does that grind my gear when I have to talk about this person, and that's going to be a long time from now.
What was I gonna? Oh yeah, we talked about it last week, right? About Wilmer Jr.
Yeah.
About, because you mentioned it right now. Is Wilmer Jr. going to be the super sub role? I think that's probably what's going to happen. Junior is going to be the sacrifice. Obviously, the question is going to be, is Francois going to be helping you the same, playing as a left winger than as a striker? Maybe not, but he does look better out on the left than out on the right. And Ricky his best performances are always going to be him playing out as a right winger. So he is one of those players you cannot move from that position if he is going to be starting there. So it's a really good question. Costless Titan says, Junior becomes a super sub. His synergy off the bench will be a great asset. I do agree with that. Costless Titan says, did Jacob go to Puma's birthday party? That's a question for you, Jacob.
No, of course not. I wasn't even invited.
Wow, and if I do go, you got shunned.
But even if I did get invited, I'd be invited. If I did get invited, I'd be invited as the piñata for sure. They'd take swings at me, or at least he would.
No,
are you kidding? I attack him so much as well in this show.
Bro,
why would he ever want to talk to us?
Bro, I think it'd be more likely for the players to get a piñata of me and beat the crap out of it than you. Because at least this season, you've been a little bit more optimistic and fair overall on the players. You've kind of just focused a little bit on Pimentel, but so have I, right? So I've got more to lose than you, I think. Costless Titan said, Francois on the left, Galindres down the middle, Reese on the right. When Pinzon comes back, we will start cooking for sure. That's another player that I'm looking forward to, hopefully getting sometime in the future. Don't know when that's going to happen, but man, I think it goes back to what Jacob's been saying of this whole, like, oh, you guys have been so pessimistic. And I know he's going to be gloating about that, but it's still a little bit early. It's just a bunch of right now of assumptions and predictions right now at this moment. Well, hold on. Do that face again, because they didn't get to see it. When you said when you went You see, I'm telling you, like he's just been gloating and rubbing it in our faces all this week.
It's to everyone. That does include Mike, and that does include Costless Titan for those comments last week in the New Mexico United game. Sadder than a 3-0 loss when you saw the players cared so much. Yeah, no, it's not sad until the players actually care. Then it's I get that. But then they came back. They had that vengeance of wanting to win and came into not a broken San Diego, but again, a San Diego squad that didn't expect RGVFC to come out with this type of attack. And I want to give credit to Wilmer Cabrera here, because what do we say sometimes when he goes on the road? He's so defensive and he changes up his scheme to make sure that he at least gets 1 point.
Yeah, he did that a lot with the Dynamo.
What is this right now? He's attacking.
Yeah. I remember when he was with the Dynamo, like when I was on the Peel or when I was in Gen Orange, we were always like, why do you why are you so conservative on the road? Like, you've got the players to be aggressive, keep being aggressive. And it seems like the USL kind of opens up a lot more for him to kind of take those risks, to be more aggressive. I leave that either that, or he kind of learned that from his time in MLS, and now he's has the opportunity to apply it here in the USL.
Sean.
In the show championship. Yes. If I get blasted on Twitter for that, I know my fam's got my back. So, Abraham Moreno says, first, Alan Carrillo says, how long is Junior's loan for? If I'm not mistaken, it's for this season only. So at the end of the season, he has to go back with Barranquilla.
And I'd be fine with that. He deserves to grow under his dad and then be a better player outside of the USL. Mm-hmm. I want that for him. I don't want him to be in the USL. I want him to play overseas.
Abraham says, back to the question. Yes, San Diego Loyal was overconfident. I agree with Jacob. They woke up after that second goal. Costas Titan says, that is not very captain-like of Puma to not invite a key member of the fan base. And then he also says, I agree with Jacob. I love being proved wrong when I am negative about the team.
Yeah.
Anyway, so as Jacob mentioned, it seemed like San Diego woke up after the second goal. It was like they finally realized, oh crap, this isn't the same totals that started the season, right? So, hopefully I choose the correct video. Okay, yeah, this is it. So this is in the 35th minute. Once again, high pressure from RGV up on top. This time, San Diego's a whole lot quicker with their passes. Pass the ball up to Ronaldo Damos, and then open it up over to Adrian Perez. Now, question for you guys, because really there's not a lot to talk about in regards to this play. Was his intention to shoot, or was his intention to cross? To me, it doesn't matter. We got Florian Thauvin. Oh. And obviously, if you ask the player, he's going to say, oh, I intended to shoot. But the reason I mention this is because really, I don't see any glaring mistake from our defense or from Tyler Derrick for me to pinpoint the blame that this goal was scored. This was I don't think nobody was expecting him to for the ball to get there.
It's a screamer. It's a screamer goal. I mean, I'm looking back at it again, too, just to refresh my memory about this whole goal, because it's crazy. Just the way that this run starts, a nice long ball. I think maybe if we're going to be very, very nitpicky here, first pass, maybe not give so much. Maybe, yeah, you can't really be so upset on this one, besides maybe... Is that Juan David? No, even David steps up.
Yeah.
To try to defend.
Jonathan Ricketts, too. And Jonathan Ricketts is the correct thing. Now, I want you to...
Yeah, everybody's doing the thing, and then advantage is played.
Now, I want you to listen to what Mike just put on the chat. And I'm showing it right now. I'm showing it right now on screen. He says, I talked to a San Diego player, and he told me they weren't too worried about the toros. Then he hit me back up after the game and said, wow, what a rude awakening.
I love that. That's perfect. That's perfect from Mike talking to somebody and saying that and the player saying that exact same thing. Yeah, what a rude awakening. Yeah, it serves them right for 2 straight years, whether or not we're at home or on the road, for them to be like, oh, shoot, this team ain't the same. We got to focus up and be there next and be ready next time we play them, which is what, like 2 months for us to play the Loyal again. It doesn't matter, but yeah, that's all. That's awesome. That's
but now awesome they have to come. But now they have to come here to HB Park.
Exactly. So, and it could be hostile with the way that the marketing team is doing so well to try to get this house to be packed. Hey, we're talking about next week. I know it's not even close to the Rowdies game. I won't be here sadly, but pack HEB Park because there's going to be some cool concerts. It might not necessarily be your jam, but there's fireworks and freaking Dairy Queen treats after the game. I count that as a summer victory in the end for a Saturday night.
I mean,
Ice
I'm not.
cream and beer. Come on, dude.
Well, yeah, that part I agree. I'm just not like you mentioned. Like Christian music is really not my jam
Yeah.
at all.
Oh well, you get to see some freaking fireworks too. We haven't had that in a while.
Well, I just hope that the team is able to reflect that
Yeah.
with a win, because I think
Of
it would be
course.
awkward. We lose and then we got a fireworks show kind of thing.
It's
That
happened
would be
before.
terrible. Yeah,
It's
well,
happened before, but my point is, they have to come back to RGV, and if stuff like that happens and RGV FC keep winning, we could see this being a hostile environment with 10,000 fans in the stands.
So Abraham Moreno, regarding that, whether it was a cross or a shot by Adrian Perez, he says it's too hard of a hit for it to be a pass. Seeing it live, I
Yeah.
thought he was going to pass. And then
Yeah.
Costless says, was it a cross or a shot? I don't even know. No way you can criticize anyone for that one. Just a
No.
wonder goal.
Yeah,
You just take a look where it went through. Like it hit the far post and in. Like, really,
exactly.
I don't think there was any way that any keeper would have been able to, in a split second, been able to calculate where the ball was going and where his momentum was taking him. So
Yeah. And it goes back to one game that I covered this season. This is why I wanted to bring this up so bad. It was Brownsville Jubilee taking on Brownsville St. Joe. Brownsville St. Joe Academy looked terrible the first half. They didn't have enough possession. Just we're outclassed in that first half. And then it was the second half. They get a foul. This ends up being a 4-4 draw, but two of the goals was in that exact left corner off of a free kick. But again, you expect the guy to cross it inside the box, right? He goes for a goal. And it ends up, guess where? Top right post. Back of the net.
yeah, you really can't expect those kind of things, because it's one of those things where, like by the angle, by the way he was positioned, you would expect it for it to be a cross. The curve would dictate that it was going to be a cross, and it was just, I don't want to say it was lucky, but it was a play that really there's nobody to blame. Costless Titan said it best. It was a FIFA scripted goal in ultimate difficulty. That's the best way to explain it.
Yeah.
So that says, ese gol ni Superman Miguel Marín lo paraba. Yeah, that's right. Not even Miguel Marín would have been able to stop that shot. So on to the next one, and I hope I choose the correct button for it. Yes. Okay. So this is the third goal. So a little bit of context at this moment. I'm house sitting at my parents' house while my parents are gone. I'm watching this game. I still have PTSD from New Mexico United. San Diego Loyal gets this wonder goal like 30 some minutes in. And then I don't know if y'all seen the meme of the dog where he gets presented a cupcake and he's just like that, where he gets PTSD. That's how I felt. Like all these memories of the New Mexico United games started coming, and I was like, "Holy crap! I hope they don't. The momentum doesn't shift towards San Diego, and they get the equalizer, or maybe even revert the score back for them to be winning at the." I was like, man, I was just expecting that, to be honest. So right after they got San Diego scores, RGV didn't miss a beat. They continued to play how they were playing, right? Mm-hmm. So once again, passing it all in the back. They almost lose it right there, thanks to Juan David Cabezas, but they're able to regain the possession of the ball. Once again, the ball goes out to Cristiano Francois, going up against Stoneman. Camden Riley attacks that ball, that through ball from... He attacks it incorrectly, puts himself out of the play. That leads Stoneman to kind of go up against Francois. Francois passes it to Wilmer to Ricky. Once again, Second time in a row where Kyle Adams makes the mistake of giving Ricky Reese too much space, except that this time Ricky Reese hits it for the goal towards the base of the near post. Coque Vegas is unable to get a touch to it, and now RGV is winning 3-1.
Yeah, I tell you, one person who we're not going to be at their birthday party anytime soon, and will probably be the punching bags too, is Camden Riley's, because oh my gosh, we're about to roast him again. You talk about how he decides to just go.
Mike, cover your ears. You don't want to hear this.
Sorry, Mike, but we've seen it right here. Why is he doing that? I mean, hey, credit to him for still technically being a Toro in this situation, apparently, because I mean, he played like one. He was like, oh, I'm not the one that gets the ball. Okay, I'm just gonna go on the outside and go. Instead, I'm open for a through ball. He even raises up his hand like he's on the team for a through ball, is what I'm noticing. Probably, of course, to tell his players, I need help. It didn't matter. That was over by that time because of himself, which is just crazy in general. But I mean, just great through balls from RGV FC all the way up to Francois. Francois with another beautiful inside cross pass, and one more from what looked to be Junior, and beautifully placed for number 12, Ricardo Ruiz, to score this goal.
But we go back with the whole thing of what I said, that the midfielders weren't coming back. And in this case, Adrian Perez weren't coming back to help out Kyle Adams. And Kyle Adams got eaten alive by Ricky Reese because of that. That is, and RGV was able to capitalize on that. Why? Because they have dedicated wingers that are speedy, that are nimble, and that have right now are showing that they've got, at least at this moment, they've gotten their shooting boots in working order to get the 3 goals first half, mind you, right? So completely unexpected. I wasn't expecting it. I don't think even the most optimistic fan, looking at you, Jacob, I don't think even the most optimistic fan was expecting 3-1 victory in the first half over San Diego Loyal. Right? So the game continues on. Oh, just a quick mention. In the first half, RGV outshot San Diego Loyal 16-9.
Yep.
16 shots total in the first half only, compared to 9 from San Diego Loyal in the second half. One of them were most of the shots from San Diego Loyal. I think maybe there might have been. Oh no, that's the full game. That's the full game. In the first half, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Oh, it was a little
7,
less. It
8,
was like
9,
10,
10,
I think.
12 shots, 12-3.
That's what it was.
12-3. And San Diego only had the wonder goal, a block shot, and a shot off target. That's all that they had. RGV had 2 goals, 3 block shots. So 3 goals, 3 block shots, 1, 2, 3, and I believe it was like 5 or 6 shots off target. But when they were on target, they were able to put them in the back of the net, and I think that's the most important aspect of that. That when you put them on target, you got to make it work and got to put it in the back of the net. Mike said, he says, I did say 3-2 in last week's show. He did. He did. A bold statement, a bold prediction, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
I think even I said something like a draw. Or
but as a regular prediction, I don't think anybody was expecting it in the first half. And I think that's what I meant. 3-1 in the first half. Maybe, at the end, okay, maybe it was a little bit more plausible. But for them to be leading with such a commanding way in the first half, I don't think anybody expected that. So for the rest of the game, RGV, in the second half, RGV pretty much, they kind of let off the gas offensively. They allowed San Diego Loyal to have a little bit more of the ball. They didn't have a lot of shots in San Diego Loyal's goal. But it really didn't seem, to be honest, it really didn't seem like San Diego were going to be a a threat to RGVFC's goal. I think in total before, hold on, I thought they had the, I thought I had a little slider. I guess I have to refresh the page because I know that they have a little slider that just specifies at certain moments of the game in and shows them in the chalkboard. Um, because really in the second half, San Diego, they had, if I go back to the chalkboard, bear with me, guys. Don't leave just yet. Don't abandon me. They had 5 shots. I think in total it was 6 shots if you count the penalty, which we're not going to get to yet. Before the penalty that they scored, they had 5 shots, 2 of them on target that were easy for Tyler Derrick, and they were pretty much at the border of the 18-yard box, just a little bit in, but they weren't really like, oh, they were like right in front of goal kind of thing. They had 2 block shots, a little bit closer to the goal, and an off-target shot near the penalty box. So really, San Diego wasn't really a huge threat for RGV. So then Wilmer starts making substitutions. He brings out in the 71st minute, he brings out Cristiano Francois, brings in Frank Lopez to kind of give him even more minutes to help him kind of recover and get some minutes to get back to 100%. 82nd minute, and this is where it gets interesting. And I know Costless Titan sent me a voice audio on Spotify for podcasters that I'm going to go ahead and play it for you guys because this is going to be important what I'm about to say.
Hey guys, thank you for taking my message. I just wanted to say there's plenty of positives to take from the San Diego game, but I'm going to be that one person that points out a negative. And the big negative, honestly, and the reason why I'm still not a believer that we can turn this season around is the fact that Wilmer Cabrera Sr. keeps making these dumb, silly, boneheaded substitutions late in the game when we're trying to preserve the draw or we're trying to defend our lead. And he puts in a bunch of defenders on that are cold, they're out of form, like Puma, like Kisner, and it just makes our defense way worse when we're supposed to be even more solid. Like, I don't get the fact, the defenders can stay on an extra 10 minutes. You don't have to take them out at the 80th minute because I feel like once the new guys go in, it's just a complete mess.
So now we've inadvertently fallen into Kema no Kemaka. I'll let you answer, Jacob.
Okay. I see where he's coming from for sure. And I get it. There is something wrong with just the chemistry of those guys. When they are subbed on, it does seem to take a lot away from it. And there is a problem there for sure. But I will give Wilmer Cabrera some benefit of the doubt in this situation. You're a coach. You don't want your players getting hurt. You're up by 2 goals. Why not give some of your players some rest in the sense? Because what if we're not playing a San Diego Loyal, and we're playing our rivals, San Antonio FC, or even an El Paso SC, for example. Why I bring that up? If they're losing by 2 goals, some players will get frustrated and they'll start to play the Latino way of soccer, the South American way of soccer. That means almost to try to injure their best players. So in order to protect it, Wilmer's going to decide, and even Jerson as well, are going to decide, what could be a good way? Sub off a couple of these players, give some other bench warmers a chance to play some to finish it out. Now, for some strange reason, those bench warmers somewhat aren't necessarily doing that. And it is very frustrating to see. I agree. Why can't they stay on a couple more minutes? for teams that aren't necessarily our rivals, but that's in the sense of why you do that, why you take out a quarterback in the fourth quarter when you're up by 20 points. It's that same type of way. And if they start to come back, you can sub them back on. Of course, this isn't American football or anything like that, and you can't just sub on a whole new team, the same team that gets their rest. But it is that situation of like you're complacent thinking, that is going to be a good substitution to make due to the fact of they could end up just completing this game. So far, they haven't necessarily done it. And again, just ranting, but it goes back to that same situation of if you're playing your rivals, that is a smart move to do if you're up by 2 goals, because they might try to hurt the best player so that the next time they play him, getting that 3 points.
So the substitution in the 82nd minute, you bring out Wilmer Cabrera Jr. to bring in Eric Pimentel. Regardless what everybody thinks about Eric Pimentel, on paper, he is the player with, or one of the players with the most experience, if not the most experience, on the bench at that moment. He is technically supposed to be the starter on paper, for the defense in that center back position. The idea is, I'm not going to be attacking San Diego anymore. So why do I need 3 players up on top? You sacrifice Wilmer Jr. You're not going to attack through the wing. So you bring in a center back and you form a line of 5, which would be Ritondale, Benitez, Puma, Acque, and Ricketts. And hold on. What the hell is banging outside? Anyway. So the point is, in theory, it looks good. Now, I understand, I think that where he's getting at, and he mentioned in the chat, why are you making multiple substitutions? Because not only did he bring in Puma in the 82nd minute, but in the 90th minute, he brings in Eric Kinsner. It's along the lines of, handling fatigue, right, for Gabriel Benitez. But this time, well, it's not an experimented player. It's a rookie, or not a rookie, but he's still young, right? But what I'm getting at is that in this game, since the moment that Eric Pimentel comes in this 82nd minute, the only shot that was made by San Diego Loyal was the penalty. Which meant that in theory, had that penalty, well, we're going to be talking about the penalty right now. Had that penalty not been scored, in theory, San Diego would have been left blank with that adjustment by Wilmer Cabrera.
Yeah.
Right? So, at least in this case, and here's the best part, and I think this is the difference, because I think I understand Costler's point, right? We're still kind of reeling over what happened against New Mexico. But here's the difference.
It didn't happen.
No. With New Mexico, Wilmer tried to improvise with Frank Nodarce as an outside back, and that's a big no-no. In this game against San Diego Loyal, you put everybody in their position. You didn't put Eric Kinsner as an outside back. You didn't put Eric Pimentel as an outside back, because you maintained Ritondale and you maintained Ricketts out on the outside. You put everybody in their positions as center backs, right? And that is the difference why it didn't look as bad. You may not like that this play was called a penalty, and I'll go ahead and play it for you. So, 91st minute. Once again, New Mexico has the ball. You see that RGV is kind of is kind of in the back. Okay? They're holding back. They get the cross in, and they're trying to go for what's his face, Elliot Collier, and I think Harry remembers him because I think it was with San Antonio, if I'm not mistaken. So they try to cross the ball towards Elliot Collier. The ball gets a little bit behind him, so I guess he tries to go for a flick or something like that. Eric Pimentel, who's supposed to be guarding Elliot Collier, the ball also goes behind him, and I think he tries to do the same thing. The difference is he stops. He stops his movement. Elliot Collier tries to go for the ball, but he's still running. The momentum is still taking him forward. So, in my eyes, it seems like the momentum made Elliot Collier crash into Eric Pimentel rather than a blatant foul from Pimentel to Elliot Collier, and should not have been called a penalty. I know I might be biased about it because it did go against the Toros, and I want to hear your thoughts, anybody in the chat, and Jacob. But to me, this was more of Elliot crashing into Puma than Puma trying to fight. Look, you see how when Elliot Collier crashes into Pimentel, that forces Pimentel to fall down.
Well, yeah. I'll say this, Edson. In basketball, different sport, but it's the same rule. When an opponent has the basketball, let's say you and I are playing. We somehow, some way made it professionally. In our longest dreams in the sixth dimension, we're pro basketball players. We play for different teams. I play for San Antonio. You play for Houston, for example. I have the ball. I'm dribbling down the court. What do? I kind of force my weight into you. You're trying to defend, and you kind of barely grab me. Guess what? Foul called. Or if I try to take a shooting foul and I lean into you, foul's going to be called. Point is, the offensive player somehow, some way, always has the right of way in that situation, whether or not they crash into him. I agree, that wasn't necessarily a penalty, but it's the referee's decision. And whether or not it looks like a penalty, we don't have VAR in USL Championship. Could help a bit, could hurt a bit. But it is the ref's right to make that penalty call. The ref made that penalty call. It's a fair one. It's the one that only I think the referee would be able to make in that situation. And because the weight of him going into Pimentel, yeah. Why did Pimentel in the first place put himself in that situation? That's what I want to know. In the end, he did not have to be there. That is a real thing. He did not have to be there, and guess what? Could have let him take a shot or could have defended himself instead of trying to put himself inside that position. Yes, Edson. It probably still not a goal too, and he's walking away without getting himself a penalty marked on his freaking resume of the 2023 season, where he is still, fun fact, the leader in red cards.
I disagree with you saying, oh, he shouldn't be in that position. I mean, I'm not going to allow Elliot Collier like a free pass for him to shoot on goal either, right?
No, but you're not going to be that close to him.
Yeah, but then you fall into the whole situation of what Kyle Adams did with Ricky. We give he can't give Elliot Collier too much space, is what I'm getting at. So it was just an unfortunate circumstance. Whether Elliot Collier kind of, I'm not saying that he dove, like that it was a blatant dive trying to fool the ref, but I think he exaggerated it a little bit, and the referee ate it hook, line, and sinker, just like my dad said. Costas Titan says USL refs at its finest, nothing Puma could do, to be honest. And then Abraham says it wasn't Puma's fault. However, his track record doesn't help him. So I think that's what you were trying to say, Jacob.
Sure.
So,
yeah. Oh, actually, yes. That's exactly what I was saying. That doesn't help. And sure enough, referee saw it, whether or not it's from afar, gives him a card. Or not a card, but gives him the penalty. And that's, again, in the referee's eyes, a completely fair penalty to give, considering who it was.
So, the end of the day, RGV wins 3-2. I honestly thought, once again, the PTSD was coming back, but RGV was able to hold on. And the final whistle was scored, and we get 3 valuable points from Torero Stadium back to HEB Park.
Mm-hmm.
I think overall, I think people, I think as the fans are kind of pleased overall. Can they continue? Yeah. Let's hope so. We got another. You mentioned at the beginning of the show, we've got another difficult team coming here to HEB Park, which is the Tampa Bay Rowdies. Now, the Tampa Bay Rowdies didn't start the season off really well, but in the last couple of games, they have been they have gotten their stride back together. So far they have a 4-4-2 record. Away, they've only won once. They have lost twice, including a 1-0 loss against San Diego Loyal.
You're reading it wrong. It's 4 wins, 2 draws, 4 losses.
Well, I'm looking at the USL website. I'm looking, and they have it 4-4-2. Yeah, for them, it is wins, loss, draws.
Okay.
Yeah. So when they've played away, they have played against Orange County SC, who have been terrible, and they barely mustered a draw. They lost 3-0 to Charleston Battery the next week. They lost 1-0 against against San Diego Loyal. And then they defeated Detroit City FC at Keynote or Keyworth? I don't remember exactly. Stadium over there in Detroit. And then their next away game is going to be us against Toros. Now, they are coming in off a 3-win streak. Yep. That 1-0 win against Detroit, a 2-0 win at home against Phoenix Rising, and a 5-1 thrashing at home to Detroit City FC.
Yep.
I don't know, guys. Now, what I think is going to make it more equal for RGV has been the defense. Oh, yeah. Because we talked about Detroit City when we played against them, how terrible defensively they were. They just got lucky that we were in a point where our offense wasn't carbureting at all. Mm-hmm. And Phoenix Rising has been one of those teams where they've kind of had some issues defending. If I look at their stats, all right, hold on, let me go back. Phoenix Rising, team stats. They have conceded 13 goals, which means 1.4 per game. So, okay, so they're not that bad defensively. When it comes to defending overall, oh, they don't even have that. Goals conceded. Here we go. So they are actually tied for 8th.
Yep.
They're tied for 8th overall. With 13 goals. They're tied with Detroit. They're tied with Indy 11. They're tied with Tulsa. But RGV isn't that far behind with 12 goals conceded. Mm-hmm. Right? So, but I think overall, RGV has kind of shown that when they are at 100%, when they don't lose their focus, it's very, very difficult to score on them. Mm-hmm. So that could be a factor that can help RGV get a favorable result over the Tampa Bay Rowdies. Yep. Now, I know there's a lot of people out there that have watched more Tampa Bay Rowdies. They're a lot more involved with other USL teams like Harry, for example, that can probably give a little bit more of a description on what Tampa Bay brings to the table. Or you can also check out at USL Tactics on Twitter. He does in-depth analysis of all teams, all games in the USL Championship. So that might be a good idea for you all to kind of get an idea what we can expect from the Rowdies, why they defeated Detroit City 5-1 at home. But having said this, because I know we're running out of time, what is your prediction for this Saturday?
Prediction. I'm going to be crazy here. And this is just my regular prediction. 3-1 RGV FC. Again, Tampa Bay Rowdies takes RGV FC for granted. And RGV FC are able to score 3 goals.
Just to put it in perspective, Tampa Bay Rowdies are tied for 15th in goals conceded. They're only 1 goal less with 11 goals conceded. So really, like, I think overall defensively, most of the teams in the USL they're right there. They're average, right? So there's really defensively, there's not much difference between one and the other. It might be different styles, but as far as the results, honestly, most of them fall on that middle of that bell curve, right? So there are some outliers like Hartford with 20 goals conceded, or Birmingham Legion, or Sacramento have only allowed 3 goals against, right? But overall, everybody's like at 11 or 12 or 13 goals scored against. So that might not be a big of a difference as I originally thought, right? So Costless Titan says, Charlie Dennis better not cook us at home. He says 2-2 draw is my prediction. I'm going to go ahead and say 1-1 draw. I do think we get a goal scored. I'm going to say that it is going to be another Ricky Risco. But I do think we might have a situation where we might allow 1. So I think for me, 1-1 draw, I think would be kind of fair, a fair assessment. Jacob, bold prediction.
Bold prediction. What can be more bold than a Puma Pimentel penalty goal? And what do I mean by that? He's the one that gets fouled inside the box. Don't ask me how. It just happened. And he's the one that scores. That's as bold as it can be.
Apparently, there's a 30% chance of rain on Saturday.
Oh, yeah. Classic. Of course. Yeah, 30% chance of rain. That's going to make things interesting. Might make it a little bit of a messy duel, but hey, if there's no lightning, we're going to play in rain. So that could be cool. Rain, stay down here, please, and be clear in Austin. That would be fantastic. And that's what the predictions are saying right now, too. So that's cool.
Mike says 2-1 RGV, Lopez game winner for his regular prediction. Abraham Moreno says 2-1 Toros win. A lot of people are optimistic for this game. My bold prediction, I'm going to go with a 5-0 thrashing of RGV over the Rowdies. Hat trick by Wilmer Jr. Bold prediction for Costas Titan, RGV 3, Tampa Bay 1. So I think overall, like I said, we are very optimistic. Hopefully the team can reflect that on the pitch. We want to have a positive attitude while the fireworks start exploding in the air. We don't want fans to be like, what are we celebrating for? Yada, 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 and so on and so forth. And I think we deserve to actually witness a win here at HB Park this season. So, but we'll see what happens. But Abraham Moreno says, dang, that's bold regarding my 5-0 win. I'm telling you, man. I am telling you. But guys, that's going to be it for this week. I appreciate everybody who chimed along in the chat. You know, Abraham, Cost List, Mike, my dad, Harry, who else did I see? Ray, Alan Carrillo. Thank you all for participating in the chat. Obviously, thank you, Mike, for giving us the news about Juan Galindres. Like I said, we're looking forward to that. I wouldn't be surprised if the fans decide to I'm not gonna say anything, but I think it'd be pretty cool for us to show Galindres some love when he does get back, or when he does get here to the Rio Grande Valley. Jacob, where can they find your word? Do you have any final thoughts before we go?
Final thoughts. Looking forward to the game. Won't be there on Saturdays. I will be in Austin. Hopefully not fighting off some severe weather up there. It looks like
I thought you were going to say I thought you were going to say, hopefully not fighting off Ross Chastain or Noah Gregson.
Nah. Yeah, no, it's gonna be fun up in Austin for sure. But yeah, just hopefully not fighting off some rain. And yeah, I'll be watching from up there most likely. But yeah, you can find me on Twitter at JakeYoung456. That's where I do most of my just most of my posts. Catch me on YouTube as well at The Overreacted Gamer. I'll make sure to vlog as much as possible, as much B-roll and as much A-roll footage as possible as I'm up there at Circuit of the Americas, just having a good time, checking stuff out and spending some time with my good old friend. Shout out Aiden Yoder as he races this weekend.
Well, good luck to Aiden this weekend. I didn't know that your friend was racing. But
that's the whole reason why I'm going up there. He invited me about a month or so ago, and I was like, I'd be dumb not to go up there. And sure enough, I'm heading up there, making that trip out. Should be good.
So Mike says he's going to be missing some guys, so come join me at the Stampede area. So guys, if you guys are at the game and you guys want a different experience, if you guys have never been part of the Stampede area before, be sure to check it out. Be sure to meet up with Mike so you guys can get the experience of being with the Stampede. And who knows, you might even become a full-time member of the Stampede supporters group. Costas Titan says this could be another statement game. If we win, then all bets are off with this team up the Toros. And like we mentioned before, with the fact that we still got some pieces that are waiting to come back, I think the optimists like you, Jacob, kind of were right all along. And as I posted on that graphic on Instagram, I think it's time for all the bulls to come running after me for talking so much crap the last couple of weeks about the team. But in the end, deservedly so. But guys, that's going to be it for tonight. Thank you all. Don't forget, if you guys missed any part of the show, you can always check out the video archive. I said last week I was going to post it on Spotify. I didn't. I'm going to try to do something this week, but we've got the Tigres versus Monterrey game right now at 10 p.m. So I'm not expecting me to work on it tonight, maybe tomorrow. We'll see each other on Saturday. If you guys, by any chance, see me, don't hesitate and say hi. I know my dad told me that somebody, one of my followers went up to him and asked if he was my dad. So yeah, if you guys see me, don't hesitate. I'll say hi. I might be a little bit shy at first, but yeah, we're there to have fun, there to support our Toros. And of course, we'll probably not have maybe I might actually do a post-game reaction, but I'll probably do it with Ray, or if Costless is still there by the time we finish post-game post-game conference. I'll probably invite somebody to do something really, really, really quick, just for the content's sake. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll see each other on Friday or on Saturday. And if not, we'll see each other right here on the Down in the Valley channel for another episode of the Down in the Valley podcast. Have a good night.